Hello. Are you thinking about trying to apply for either a spouse or a fiance visa to bring your loved one to the United States, or for you to come to the United States to be here with your fiance or spouse? If so, I want to talk through with you what we're currently seeing for spouse and fiance visa cases so you can think about which of these cases may be a better option for you. My name is Kaylani Hawks Villafranca. I'm a U.S. immigration attorney based in Texas with clients around the world. And I do these cases all the time. And I get the questions I'm going to go over today every single week. So I want to talk through with you the things I want you to think about to be able to make this decision. All right, let's go. So the first thing we need to do is talk about the two case types we're talking about. If you are engaged, and your fiance wants to bring you to the United States, that person can either bring you to the United States as a fiance, or you guys can get married and you can come as a spouse. What we're going to talk about today are the differences between the two options, and which is better for you and how you figure that out. So first, let's talk about what those options are. The fiance visa is only available for fiancés of US citizens. So if your fiance is a green card holder, a lawful permanent resident, you are not eligible for a fiance case. So that decision has been made for you. If your fiance is not a US citizen, you can't do that case. You have to get married and then come as a spouse. If your fiance is a US citizen, then you can apply for what's called a fiance visa. You will apply in the United States to USCIS, the immigration service here in the United States, proving your relationship. Once USCIS says, yes, we agree, your relationship is legitimate, you're not just trying to get a green card, then you'll have to go to your home consulate or embassy in the country where you live, and you will have an interview for your fiance visa. Hopefully, they will think everything is great and they will approve your case. Then you'll enter the United States with your fiance visa. The only thing you can do on that visa is enter the country and get married to the person who sponsored your visa within 90 days. Once you've gotten married to your fiance, your US citizen fiance, then you file your green card application in the United States as the now spouse of a US citizen. You wait for a while. You will go to an interview at a field office in the United States with your now spouse, and they will hopefully approve your case. That's the whole process, start to finish, of the fiance visa. The marriage visa looks similar, but differs a little bit. So the marriage case, you have to be married. As a side note, I had someone ask this week, if we get married while our fiance visa case is pending, does that cancel it? Yes, it does. If you're married, you're no longer a fiance and you're not eligible for a fiance case. So you have to pick one or the other. If you are married to either a US citizen or green card holder, you can get your green card as their spouse. The timing is a little different based on if you're married to a US citizen or a green card holder, because sometimes lawful permanent resident spouses have to wait a little longer. It's not always true, but it can take a bit longer. So if your spouse is eligible to become a citizen and they haven't done it yet, they should do it because it's going to be helpful for your case. Okay, so we apply the same as we do with a fiance visa. For a spouse visa, we start in the United States. We apply to the immigration service here and say, look, our marriage is legitimate. Just like when you were a fiance, they said, look, our relationship is legitimate. Now you say, look, our marriage is legitimate. We're not just trying to get a green card. We really love each other. And they say, great, we believe you. What a beautiful relationship you have. And they approve the first part of your case. Then, if you're outside the United States, of course, this is everything we're talking about here is for people who live outside the country. If you're outside the country, then you'll go, next step is an interview for your green card. We'll submit an online green card application to your home consulate or embassy, and then you wait until they have an interview available and you go to that interview. At that interview, if it's approved, you now have been approved for your green card. And when you enter the United States, you enter as a lawful permanent resident yourself. You don't have to do anything else after you get here. I mean, there are a few little procedural, administrative things, but your case is done. Once you enter, you're now a green card holder and you've entered the United States as a US citizen or lawful permanent resident spouse who now has a green card themselves. So that's the difference, is with the fiance, you enter as a fiance and then you have to do your green card application here still. With the spouse case, once you're here, you're done. Of course, keep in mind, there's always more to talk about, but that's the high level. So which one's better for you? How are you going to figure this out? So I want to think about a couple things as you think through which one's better. If you've seen an earlier video of mine from a year or two ago, I was saying absolutely, without question, the spousal visa option is better. And that's because during the pandemic, things slowed down so much that fiance visa cases stopped getting interviews. Marriage cases were getting interviews at consulates or embassies abroad, but fiance cases were not. And so I didn't want anybody to try and get in line for a fiance case, not knowing if they were ever going to get an interview. So that's changed. Some immigration lawyers sued the government and said, hey, you can't do that. That's not right. A judge said, hey, these immigration lawyers are correct. You can't just not interview people. It's not okay. And so fiance visa cases are being interviewed again. I will say, generally, in most countries, it would likely be faster for you to go through the marriage visa process. But I hesitate to even say that because what I want you to hear is that right now, it's a toss-up for any particular case, whether a fiance case or a spouse case would move faster. And that's because for each of them, the processing time is variable between cases, and they're both right around anywhere from a year to 2.5 years right now. And so that's something else I really want you to keep in mind and to know before you start this kind of case is that you are not getting into a fast process. You should be. It's not fair for you to be engaged or married to a US citizen and to be outside the country for a year or 2 or 3 while your case is processing. But that's the current reality of the US immigration system. And I wish I could fix that and I wish I could make it better for you, but I can't. And it's really important for you to know going in that that is the expectation for your case because you will have a much better experience if you plan from that on the front end and know that that is the world we're living in instead of thinking maybe I'll get lucky and my whole case will be approved in 6 or 9 months, which is not going to happen. And then you're disappointed and frustrated the whole time. So go in with realistic expectations and you'll set yourself up for success. So timing is one thing. There are a couple things you can do to control the timing, and there are a couple things you can't. So what can you control? One, this is how I share this info with my clients. Here are the things we can control. You can control how quickly you get your documents together. So I send my clients a full list of all the documents we need as soon as they hire us. And some people get us everything in 3 days. Some people take 6 months. That is completely up to the client, how long that part of the process takes. The next part is how long does it take your attorney to put your case together? Or how long does it take you to put your own case together if you're trying to represent yourself? I cannot guess. And this is exactly what I tell my clients as well. I can't guess or have any idea how well you might lawyer your own case. I don't know how quickly you'll do it. I don't know how good of a job you'll do. I do know that you won't really know what you're doing. So if it goes well, it's probably because you got lucky. Now, I don't say that to be cynical, but the forms in this type of case can be hundreds and hundreds of pages by the time you get all the way through the process. So it's a lot to master. It's a lot to do well, especially if you don't have any training. The good news is there are a lot of wonderful, competent immigration attorneys in this world. We handle this all the time. So do plenty of my colleagues around the country and around the world. So you can find a good attorney that you like who is going to work well with you. So timeline number 1 is how quickly are you going to get your documents and information together? Timeline number 2 is how quickly is your attorney going to put this case together for you? Once my clients get me all the information and all the documents, I file their case within 2 to 3 weeks every time. Now, I have to have all their documents and all their info first. But once I do, we can process really quickly because this is our job. I spend all day long making sure I know how to do these cases properly. Then we file with the government. Now, here's where we don't get to control anything. We just have to wait. This is the hardest part of any case because you can see online the processing time for a fiance visa or a spouse visa for the first step is about 6 to 12 months right now. But some people get a decision in 4 months and some people get a decision in 16 months. And you don't know which case is yours until you get that decision. And that's really, really hard. So that's the timeline question. It's really important before you make a decision based on timing to speak with an attorney. Because one of the things we do is keep up with the situation on the ground in the consulates and embassies where we work. So I know what's going on in Mexico really closely right now and in Spain and in Argentina. I don't really know what's going on in Japan because I don't do any cases in Japan. So it's really important to try and find someone who works in the place where you work and they can help you understand, okay, what's going on there? What does the timeline look like in that place? Because the longest wait or the most variable wait in these cases, in either case, in fiance or spouse visa case, the longest wait time and the most variable wait time is going to be how long it takes you to get an interview at your local embassy or consulate. So you need to speak with an attorney and ask directly. In Manila, how long is this taking? In London, how long is this taking right now? In Madrid, how long is this taking? And see if you can get any information. Keep in mind, your attorney's not going to be able to tell you exactly because the Department of State doesn't tell us. They won't give us info. We just have to guess based on what we know of our clients and what we know of our colleagues' clients and try and put this jigsaw puzzle together to give you an idea of what might be possible for you. But those timelines change all the time. So keep that in mind. So timing is one thing. I would say there is not a reason right now to select either fiance or spouse, one over the other, based on timing, except unless you're in a very certain limited instances of certain countries. Right now, for example, Mexico currently is moving faster for fiance visas than spouse visas, and I know that to be true. And it's based on a change that happened very recently. So clients who hired me a year and a half ago, I said, you need to do a spouse visa in Mexico, and now that's not true anymore. So in limited instances, we can say this one really is moving a lot faster. But unless that's true for you and where you live, then you shouldn't make timing a consideration for you. So what are the other considerations? One, who needs to work? So if the immigrant needs to work or wants to work, right? I would really want to work. If it were me, I wouldn't want to sit around for a long time not working. If the immigrant needs to work as soon as they get to the United States, the fiance visa is not the option for you. Now, why is that? Because if you Google this, Google is going to tell you that fiance visas come with a work permit. It is not true. The law allows you to enter the US as a fiance and to file a request for a work permit, but it takes so long for those to be processed that they're meaningless and you will never get it. And what you're going to get instead as a fiance is enter the country, get married, file your green card case, then wait for your work permit approval while your green card case is pending. Because when a green card case is pending, you have a right to a work permit if your case is pending in the United States. Traditionally, during COVID, those were taking 6 to 12 months, forever. The government has made a change recently, and we've seen an accelerated approval of work permit applications for pending green card cases. We're talking 4, 5, 6 weeks. We don't have enough data yet to say if that's going to be universally true and if it's going to continue. It started very recently in the last couple of weeks. But that's something to keep in mind so that if this is you, say your fiance enters, you get married 6 weeks later, you file your case 6 weeks after that. So now you're already at 3 months. And then it takes another, let's just say 2 to 3 months to be conservative for your work permit. Well, now you're at 6 months without the ability to work in the United States. For some people, that's fine. For other people, that's going to be a disaster. It's going to ruin their career. It's going to make them very frustrated or depressed, or is not going to be good for your relationship. So this is something you need to decide as a couple, what's important to you. And how does the immigrant's work, fit into that picture? If the immigrant needs or wants to work, upon entry to the United States, the fiance visa is not the best option for you. Next, do you have any kids that need to be added to the application? Why do I ask this? For a fiance visa application, we can add children. For a US citizen spouse application, we can't add any children, and we have to add a whole separate case for your spouse's child. Keep in mind, for a resident spouse, a green card holder spouse, we can't add children to that. So it depends on which case you're working on and whether or not your fiance or spouse is a citizen or resident, if you can add children to the application. So if the immigrant has children under the age of 21 who will be coming to the US with them, then you will probably want to think more strongly about either the fiance case or the marriage case only if you're married to a green card holder. Because for US citizen spouses, there are no children allowed to be added. What we have to do is have the US citizen do one case for spouse and a separate case for child. So you have 2 separate cases going all the way through. Often the cases will be processed at the same time. They usually are, but it means twice the paperwork, twice the lawyer's fee, twice the processing time, twice the processing time headaches, twice the government fees. Where if you're able to add children, then you can save some money that way and ensure that everyone is processed together on the same application. The difference maybe isn't as meaningful for one child, but if the immigrant has 2, 3, 4, 5 children, at that point, like the cost difference is enormous. And you definitely want to do the option where you can add the children to the application through the fiance visa process. Something else I want you to keep in mind is that you should never make decisions about getting married because your immigration attorney told you to, right? You have to make the decision that is best for you and your relationship. So if you know that it's really important for each of you to live in the same space, to feel your relationship together before you get married, then go with the fiance visa route because that's what makes sense for you guys. You want your fiance to come to the United States. You want to be able to live here together. And you want to be able to really make that decision after you've lived together in the US for a period of time to say, yes, we really do want to get married. If that's what makes sense for you, then the fiance visa was meant for you and you should pursue that option. It's a great one. On the other hand, if you think like, we want to get married, we're ready. I don't want to wait. I don't want to worry about this. I want to be married and we're ready for this step, then do that. As long as there's not some other consideration that I've just talked about that makes you pause, then that's the right option for you. Because the timeline right now for fiance or marriage is such a toss-up. Any individual case could be better in fiance or spouse case time-wise, that's not a reason to make a decision. The decision now should be based on the other factors we just talked about, like work permission, kids, your particular location processing time, perhaps, and what makes sense for you and your relationship. Last but not least, I wanted to mention something that is really helpful for people to know. Questions I get a lot about kind of how to make this work. One is, are you allowed to get married in the United States on a visitor visa? Absolutely yes. The physical act of getting married on a visitor visa is fine. Now, don't lie at entry. If they say, why are you coming? And you say, I'm coming to visit my mom, but you're getting married, don't lie to immigration. But you can say, I'm coming to get married, and then I will return home and file my application from abroad. Like, here, I already have my return ticket. There's some risk they won't let you in if they think you're lying and you're going to stay. But I've had plenty of clients come to the US to get married and went back home. If you can show ties to your home country, your job, the house you have, the business you run, whatever, that's really helpful. So can you get married in the United States on a visitor visa? Absolutely, you can. What you can't do is say that you're coming to visit and then enter and get married and stay here because you didn't really come to visit. You came to get married and stay. And so at the time of your entry, if you knew you were coming to get married and not leave, but you said, let me in as a visitor, I'm here to visit, then you lied to immigration at entry, and that can cause a lot of harm for your case down the future, and your case might be denied. But you can come and enter as a tourist, get married, and then return home to process your case. The second question I get a lot is, can I travel while my case is pending? So if we choose to not do the fiance route, we want to do the marriage route, and so I'm going to be outside the country the entire time the case is processing, but I have a valid visitor visa. Can I visit my spouse while our case is pending? Absolutely. And I have clients do this frequently. A lot of my clients are in Mexico, so it's really easy to travel back and forth between Mexico and the US, and especially Texas, where I am. My clients do it every week. So I have a lot of experience watching clients go through this, and it's really, really common. The same issue applies as what we just talked about for entering to get married. You have to be able to prove to the satisfaction of the official at entry that you're not coming to stay. So if you maintain your job, you have a return ticket, always have a return ticket. You can show meetings on your calendar at work for the next couple of weeks, whatever it is to convincingly show Customs and Border Patrol that you are in fact going to leave again. And that's great. I have clients all the time who file the I-130 and then travel back and forth to the US while that case is pending, and then file for consular processing and continue to travel while that case is pending. It's completely fine as long as you can convince Border Patrol that you're really going to leave and you're not going to stay without permission to be here as a spouse of a US citizen. So I hope that this has been helpful. If you want more guidance on your particular case and how to make the decision and how to think through the options for you and your relationship, give me a call. The number's here below, 512-675-2945. It's been such a pleasure talking to you guys today. Hasta luego.